Coming up, a Cherokee County judge sentences a Joplin man to a 2017 murder. And Missouri teens may have to pass a driver's ed course before getting their license. Also, a Miami, Oklahoma high school mascot signs a contract with a top New York modeling agency.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5 a.m. I'm Bronte Sorotsky. So this is not normally where I'm stationed. I'm not normally up this early, and it was a lot colder, Nick, than I thought it was going to be this morning. I'm not usually up at 3 a.m.
Well, first of all, Bronte, it's nice to have you here. We're a little more laid back in the mornings, but yeah, the past few mornings have certainly been downright cold. And it's probably because of that strong south breeze that has made things feel a little bit colder than what the actual air temperatures are. We'll start breaking down the numbers as we go along here, but first let's head outside the 7th and Range line. We're looking okay, at least the way the skies are looking. We've had some cloud cover pass on through overnight, maybe a couple of sprinkles. That's because an upper level wave passing over Nebraska and Iowa. That's the main culprit for maybe a few random sprinkles during the late evening and overnight hours. And for the most part, it's mainly bringing in a lot of cloud cover to start the morning out. But double checking the radar network, we're not seeing anything really popping up. So most of us are dry to start the morning out. But temperatures have actually fared quite a bit better compared to the 20s and 30s we've had to start the past few mornings with. We're in the upper 40s to lower 50s already to start this morning out, thanks to that south wind at about 10 to 20 miles per hour. Quick check at the bus stop forecast means kids will be around 53 as you start heading your way off to school, that is. Hopefully that's more proper English. But well, by the time we head home, we'll be topping out around 67 degrees for the afternoon. But in between, we'll be at 56 by 9 a.m. 62 by noon, and highs around 67. So we're really on the right track, Bronte, in terms of warming things up. But we have some more changes on the way, including our next chance for rain and even some thunderstorms. We'll start breaking that down with our first look at the 7-day coming up in a bit.
All right, Nick, thank you.
All right.
A Cherokee County judge sentences the suspect in a 2017 murder. Wesley Smith will serve around 16 years in prison on charges of second-degree intentional murder and aggravated battery. He was originally charged with first-degree murder before a November plea deal. In 2017, Smith shot 22-year-old Tyler Nielsen multiple times on Nelson's front lawn. Cherokee County, Kansas has to amend 20,000 property tax forms after discovering that people were taxed more than they were supposed to be. County officials met last night to go over the situation. In last night's meeting, they focused on how the mistake will affect the mill leaves for the school district. They've been contacting superintendents to brief them on the issue. The county says they'll be updating the community as they learn more. Yesterday in McCurtain County, Oklahoma, 2 were pronounced dead after a fatal accident. Walter Frey, 79, of Idabel, Oklahoma, was pronounced dead after being transported to McCurtain County Memorial located in Idabel. Melinda Frey, 62, also from Idabel, was transported by air evac to Medical City Plano in Plano, Texas, where she was later pronounced dead. The other driver, Gary Dawson, 69, had no injuries whatsoever. A state court judge in Oklahoma has granted a temporary stay of execution for a death row inmate convicted of killing a security guard during a 2004 bank robbery in Tulsa. Pittsburgh County Associate District Judge Tim Mills issued the stay so that a competency hearing can be held for 60-year-old Wade Lay. After hearing before Mills last week, the judge determined there was good reason to believe Lay is not competent to be executed. Lay's attorney, Sarah Jernigan, has said Lay has a decades-long history of severe mental illness, including schizophrenia and delusions. Some Miami, Oklahoma schools went into lockdown yesterday. Authorities tell us someone near one of the schools was shooting a gun. No one was hurt, and the suspect is in custody. Wilson, Nichols, and Miami Academy all went under shelter-in-place orders. The Missouri State Highway Patrol's Division of Drug and Crime is investigating an officer-involved shooting. It occurred on December 8th in Hickory County, Missouri. On Wednesday, at approximately 9 a.m., Hickory County Sheriff's Office deputies responded to the report of a domestic disturbance in Hermitage, Missouri. A preliminary investigation revealed that while deputies were investigating the disturbance, a female armed with a knife attacked the resident of the property. A deputy fired his weapon, which struck the 42-year-old woman, in which she was fatally injured and was pronounced dead at the scene. COVID-19 cases are rising again across Missouri. Data posted on the state's COVID-19 dashboard showed 1,637 people hospitalized with the virus. By comparison, 951 were hospitalized a month ago. The number of intensive care unit patients has risen to 338, up from 228 on November 5th. Inpatient bed capacity is at 15% in the St. Louis region, 18% in Kansas City, and just 12% in northwestern Missouri. Missouri teens could soon be required to take driver's ed before hitting the road. A Missouri lawmaker has pre-filed legislation that would require anyone 18 and younger trying to get their license to complete a driver's ed course approved by the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission. A driver's ed instructor with the Alliance of Southwest Missouri says he's seen young drivers struggle with their written test since driver's ed was no longer mandatory.
There's a lot of online courses to help with the written exam. I see a lot of students that take multiple attempts to have the written exam. There's many online courses out there that assist with this behind the wheel.
Currently, it is only recommended that new drivers looking to obtain a license complete a driver's ed program. A Miami, Oklahoma high school mascot will no longer hide her face under a bulldog mask. And you could see it featured in major publications. On Wednesday, Anna Maria Thomas signed a contract with a top New York modeling agency, Elite Model. She was discovered at a beauty pageant in Orlando last month.
It's always been a dream of mine, but it's something I've never pursued because it's something that you never think is really going to happen. You know, it's like the 1 in 1 million chance. But I've thought about it since I was a kid. I mean, that's kind of what every girl wants to do.
Elite's models have been featured on the cover of Vogue and Elle magazines. Well, now it's 5:07. We'll take a look at the forecast.
Yeah, and as I promised, Bronte, first look at the extended forecast. As it's again, it's 67 today, mostly cloudy this morning, and will turn partly sunny for the afternoon. Our next system comes in on Friday. Before any showers or storms can get going, we'll have highs around 72. Then behind the front, we're back in the 50s while we stay dry for Saturday and Sunday. Then we'll start to get a little bit active again as we head into next week. Bronte?
Thanks, Nick. That's the morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, the Missouri Southern women continue to roar after winning 4 straight games. Can they stay red hot against Rogers State this weekend?
Plus, Steven Spielberg mixes old and new in his take on the classic big screen musical West Side Story.
And programs are now popping up to help patients suffering with long-term COVID receive the comprehensive treatment they need. You're watching the KOAM Morning News, more real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Tony's Garden.
The Pittsburgh State Gorillas were back on the floor last night on the road against Rogers State. On the women's side, the Gorillas are 5-2 to start the season, including a 1-1 start in MIAA play. The Gorillas control it all the way through to win 74-60, though, with Tristan Gay leading the way with 21 points, Aaron Davis with 12, and Jamie Jackson posting 10 points, not to mention 7 rebounds. After that, it was the men's turn, hitting the floor against the Hillcats. The Gorillas had a 3-point lead at the half, but they got outscored 54-39 in the second half, following with a final of 82-70. Isaiah James, scored a team-high 13 points for Pitt State. That's still not too shabby. The Missouri Southern women are certainly on the roll right now. The Lions won 4 in a row, including their first 2 conference games against Central Oklahoma and Newman last week. Southern has the whole week to prepare, though, before they face off against Rogers State on Saturday in their first MIAA road game. Last time out, they kind of had to grind it out against Newman. The Lions shot 25% in the third, scoring just 7 points before outscoring the Jets 15-12 in the fourth to close things out.
It was good for our kids to gain some confidence in the aspect that we can win a ball game late. We can do enough things, positive things, to pull out a win. A year ago, we struggled at that. We was in a lot of ball games, and usually it got flipped. I was glad to see our kids fight through, especially on the defensive end, get stops, and then we made enough shots, enough plays to win the basketball game.
Now looking at the Missouri Southern men, they're also feeling pretty good right now since they're 2-0 in the MIAA and winning 3 in a row. Christian Bundy has been great in these first 2 conference games. Against Central Oklahoma, Bundy went for 12-9 with the game-winning tip-in. He followed that up by posting a double-double, 16 points and 11 boards against Newman last Saturday.
You know, he's been here for 4 years, and you know, he knows what our program's all about, and he's played multiple positions for us, and he's just stepped up his game in every aspect. He's able to step out and shoot the 3 this year, and not that he couldn't do it last year. He just got more opportunities this year to do it, and you know, also just making some big plays down the stretch defensively for us.
And that's it for sports this morning. Still to come, some German politicians look to extend voting rights to non-nationalized immigrant adults. We'll have that on World Watch, pardon me. But first, we'll take a look at our forecast for today and the next 7 days when we come back. Coming up on 5:17 on this Thursday morning, we're mainly off to a quiet start, but we've seen the upper level stay kind of active throughout the course of the week, and that certainly applies for this morning because as advertised, here's another upper level wave passing on through. That tried to bring a few sprinkles to some overnight, but mainly that's providing quite a bit of cloud cover to start this day out. And at the surface, the reason why we were warming up throughout the overnight hours, another quick warm front coming through, making sure that south breeze stays in place at 10 to 20 miles per hour. So that's certainly going to help temperatures out again today. And a closer up view of the Skywatch storm tracker shows again, mostly cloudy skies through the overnight and the start this morning out. Not a whole lot coming out of the clouds down to the ground, so a lot of us are dry at 5:17 now on this Thursday morning. We're at 52 in Joplin, but that wind, goodness, a south at 18 with gusts close to 30 at times. Again, kind of a hold on to your hat kind of day, but that's the type of breeze that's going to really warm temperatures up once we get past the upper 40s and lower 50s that we're seeing on the board right now. And across the rest of the region, it's not just Joplin with the winds at 10 to 20 miles per hour sustained and gusts close to 30. Much of the region is seeing a good south and even a slight southwest wind at about 10 to 20 miles per hour. So on a normal day where we should be topping out around 49, we're pretty much already at that number, if not warmer than that. In fact, we go to 54 by 8 a.m., 62 by noon. Highs pushing 67 degrees today, so quite a mild afternoon ahead of us once we start to see at least more partly sunny skies as we go into this afternoon. You can see as a result how everybody tops out in the mid to upper 60s this afternoon. Then as we head toward tonight into Friday morning, we'll see cloud cover back on the increase ahead of our next cold front on the way in, and that's going to set the stage for another mild Friday. But once we hit the afternoon, that's going to be our next best shot for any scattered showers and even a couple of thunderstorms as well, as highs top out around 72. Once we get the backside of the front through, we'll drop back to 50 on Saturday, 57 on Sunday. Chilly for the rest of the weekend, but we'll keep things dry under partly to mostly sunny skies. All right, let's switch gears now. Remaking West Side Story, certainly a big deal, even for a filmmaker like Steven Spielberg. After all, it's a 1961 musical, there we go, that won 10 Academy Awards. But 6 decades later, Spielberg's version is hitting theaters and critics, goodness, they're talking Oscars all over again. David Daniel looks at what's old and what's new in West Side Story.
The first gringo boy who smiles at you.
I never seen you before. You're not Puerto Rican.
Is that okay?
Do you want to start World War III?
The new West Side Story still has the gang clashes between the Sharks and Jets, the forbidden love at first sight between Tony and Maria, and those memorable songs. The new generation of stars includes Rachel Zegler, a YouTube performer in her first professional role as Maria, Ansel Elgort as Tony, and Ariana DeBose as Anita, the role for which 60 years ago, Rita Moreno became the first Latina actress to win an Oscar.
You don't want to start maybe with "I'd like to take you out to coffee"?
Moreno returns in the new film's only new major role, Valentina, who counsels Tony as he woos Maria. But just as in the original film, the course of this love story never runs smooth.
Life matters even more than love.
In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
I'm going to talk about this morning, and you want to know what's your favorite Hollywood musical? This is something I was discussing with Bronte as we were wrapping things up here. So far, my favorites are Rent, Grease, and The Phantom of the Opera, but maybe you like West Side Story, Singing in the Rain, Chicago, La La Land, My Fair Lady. We want to hear from you about that, so we have this pinned right at the top of our Facebook page, so be sure you head over to KOAM News Now on Facebook and chime in with your favorites. In the meantime, Bronte will be back with Health Watch on the other side.
There's casino.
Topping Health Watch this morning, the U.S. passed a key milestone in its vaccination effort, but health experts say there's still more work to be done to protect Americans against COVID-19. A handful of states are current hotspots for the virus, largely affecting the unvaccinated. CBS's Laura Podesta has details.
More than 200 million, or just over 60% of Americans, are now fully vaccinated against COVID-19.
It feels good to be safer.
Many are now getting their booster shot, a key defense against the Omicron variant.
At first we were skeptical about do we need it or not, but once we heard there was another variant out there, there's no taking chances.
Pfizer says its additional shot increases protection 25-fold against Omicron.
That will induce immunity that is likely to protect from infection, symptomatic illness, and severe disease.
Only about a quarter of eligible Americans have had a booster. Meanwhile, COVID hospitalizations jumped nearly 30% in the past month, driven by the Delta variant.
Unless we really double down on what we're doing, we could see an increased spike that goes even higher than that as we get deeper into December and January.
4 states, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, are responsible for around half of the increase in hospitalizations. Michigan hit a record number this week.
Nearly all who are on the intensive care unit are unvaccinated, especially those who have a tube down their throat or are intubated.
A new report by the Nuclear Threat Initiative and Johns Hopkins University found the world is dangerously unprepared for future pandemics. The U.S.'s score was hurt by a lack of public trust in government. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
The findings are no better than when the first version of the report was released in 2019, just a few months before COVID-19 was detected. With more and more people suffering with long-term COVID, programs are now popping up to help patients receive the comprehensive treatment they need. Dr. Malika Marshall reports.
Didn't really understand.
In March 2020, 47-year-old Phil Bezeski developed fever, a cough, and trouble breathing. When the 47-year-old father of 4 went to the hospital, the doctor didn't mince words.
He said, "You're really sick, and if we don't put you on life support, you're going to die."
Phil had COVID-19, was in pulmonary failure, and given a 10% chance to live. He spent 28 days in the hospital, 16 of them in a coma.
From when I woke up till the day I left, it was a struggle to even just use my hands to feed myself.
More than a year later, Phil still suffers from nerve pain, weakness, fatigue, shortness of breath, anxiety, depression, and brain fog.
It's another pandemic, and it threatens the health of a generation.
Dr. Bruce Levy at Brigham and Women's Hospital says up to 30% of patients with COVID, many with only mild illness, have at least one symptom that persists for 3 to 6 months or more, a condition referred to as long COVID.
Long COVID involves multiple parts of the body, multiple symptoms. And so going to any one doctor is a real challenge to comprehensively evaluate this.
That's why the hospital established a COVID recovery center where patients have their lingering symptoms addressed all in one place.
They get an itinerary for any doctors or other healthcare providers they'll be seeing.
Phil has been coming to the center for a few months.
It's provided me with some hope for the future that, this is what I've been longing for from services, to have someone that really can understand COVID.
He hopes more long COVID patients can also find the help they need. Dr. Malika Marshall, CBS News, Boston.
Other hospitals around the country are also implementing programs for people with long COVID. If you're suffering from lingering COVID symptoms, ask your doctor about programs near you. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
And since it's 5:27, just about, we'll get another look at our forecast before we head to a commercial break. We're already off to quite a chilly start this morning, but we're not done warming things up. With the southwest wind at 10 to 20 throughout the day, you can see how we'll soar from the 50s to about 67 degrees this afternoon. That's just in the Joplin area, but that same story applies for the entire area for today. With partly to mostly sunny skies later this afternoon, we'll see highs around 67 degrees in general. Then we're going to see the cloud cover pick back up overnight, and as we head into Friday, that's ahead of our next storm system that could bring not only showers and thunderstorms Friday afternoon and evening, but also highs around 72. Then behind the front, we're going back into the chill as we stay dry for Saturday and Sunday before things get a bit active again as we go into next week. Another half hour of news in the morning coming up. Stick with us.
Too much turkey.
Good morning, I'm Bronte Sorotsky with your KOAM News Update. Cherokee County, Kansas has to amend 20,000 property tax forms after discovering that people were taxed more than they were supposed to be. County officials met last night to go over the situation. In last night's meeting, they focused on how the mistake will affect the mill levies for the school district. They've been contacting superintendents to brief them on the issue. The county says they'll be updating the community as they learn more. Missouri teens could soon be required to take driver's ed before hitting the road. A Missouri lawmaker has pre-filed legislation that would require anyone 18 and younger trying to get their license to complete a driver's ed course approved by the Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission. A driver's ed instructor with the Alliance of Southwest Missouri says he's seen young drivers struggle with their written test since driver's ed was no longer mandatory. Now here's Nick Kelly with today's forecast.
And we're looking at a mild day ahead of us, Bronte. Mostly cloudy this morning, but we're going to see more sunshine as the afternoon rolls on. But with that southwest wind at 10 to 20, we're going to see highs today topping out around 67. Next front, rain and thunderstorms rolls in on Friday with highs around 72. Then we'll dry out behind that system for the weekend, but we'll have highs back in the 50s Saturday and Sunday.
Coming up, a Cherokee County judge sentences a Joplin man in a 2017 murder. And Missouri teens may have to pass a driver's ed course before getting their license. Also, a Miami, Oklahoma high school mascot signs a contract with a top New York modeling agency.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:30. I'm Bronte Sorotsky. So it was pretty cold this morning. I'm normally not up at this hour. So Nick, can you please break down what our weather forecast is looking like?
Well, at the very least, Bronte, we are in much better shape compared to the cold mornings that we've had to deal with so far this week. We're mainly in the 40s and 50s now. Thankfully, though, we're going to continue our mild trend with a lot more sunshine on the way. We'll break down how today's numbers look as we continue on after our look at 7th and Rangeline this morning. That's a quiet-looking sky at 531. But as Doug said the other night, and like I said yesterday as well, we have yet another wave in the upper levels passing on by. That's primarily bringing in a lot of cloud cover to start this morning out, and at times a couple of sprinkles during the overnight hours, and certainly before 5 a.m. But in general, the radar network's not picking up a lot of precip or anything coming from the clouds, so we're mainly off to a dry start this morning. Temperatures right now, we're in the upper 40s to lower 50s all across the region, but as long as that breeze at 10 to 20 miles per hour and gusts near 30 at times stay in place, that is going to have a definite impact on temperatures today. So as the kiddos head off to school, we'll have temperatures around 53 degrees, but as they make their way back home, we're going to be hitting our afternoon highs around 67 degrees. So the day planner in general, Bronte, not looking too bad. 56 by 9 a.m., 62 by noon. I think we can push highs near 67 degrees, numbers that are rare to come by for December. And we can enjoy one more mild day before we see another change. That'll bring us back to reality come this weekend. We'll break that down in the 7-day forecast coming up.
Okay, Nick, thank you.
All right.
A Cherokee County judge sentences the suspect in a 2017 murder. Wesley Smith will serve around 16 years in prison on charges of second-degree intentional murder and aggravated battery. He was originally charged with first-degree murder before a November plea deal. In 2017, Smith shot 22-year-old Tyler Nelson multiple times on Nelson's front lawn. Yesterday in McCurtain County, Oklahoma, 2 were pronounced dead after a fatal accident. Walter Frey, 79, of Idabel, Oklahoma, was pronounced dead after being transported to McCurtain County Memorial, located in Idabel. Melinda Frey, 62, also from Idabel, was transported by air evac to Medical City Plano in Plano, Texas, where she was later pronounced dead. The other driver, Gary Dawson, 69, had no injuries whatsoever. Some Miami, Oklahoma schools went into lockdown yesterday. Authorities tell us someone near one of the schools was shooting a gun. No one was hurt and the suspect is in custody. Wilson, Nichols, and Miami Academy all went under shelter-in-place orders. 3 men charged after a tourist boat sank and killed 17 people on Table Rock Lake in 2018 appear in court. The men each face 17 counts of first-degree involuntary manslaughter. Kenneth McKee was the captain of the duck boat that sank near Branson. He also faces 12 counts of endangering the welfare of a child. The other men charged are Curtis Lanham, the general manager of the Ride the Ducks in Branson, and Charles Balzell, who was a manager on duty. Prosecutors say the boat was sent onto the lake despite warnings that a storm was coming. Riders from Missouri, Indiana, Illinois, and Arkansas were killed. Young Missouri drivers could soon be required to take driver's ed thanks to some pre-filed legislation. The bill says that anyone 18 and younger trying to get their license would need to complete a driver's ed course approved by the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission. KOAM spoke with a Joplin driving instructor and student to see what the bill could mean for young Missouri drivers.
Okay, you are good, you ready? Let's go ahead and go.
Mark Box has been a driver's ed instructor with the Alliance of Southwest Missouri for the last 5 years. And in that time, he's seen some changes in what's required when it comes to obtaining a driver's license.
You have to take your written permit test before you're allowed to drive with a licensed adult of a certain age, and after you're 16 years of age, then you're allowed to take the behind the wheel driver's test. But other than that, there is no mandated training, behind the wheel training in the state of Missouri. It used to be, but it has now been taken out of Missouri's curriculum.
A Missouri lawmaker has pre-filed a bill that would require anyone 18 and younger to take a driver's ed course before obtaining their license.
Kids are not currently required to take driver's ed.
In Box's time as a driving instructor, he says he's seen a significant decrease in teens' driving skills.
Just the skill level I've seen in the teenagers from the time it was mandatory to the time it was not any longer has dramatically decreased.
For new drivers like Jeanette Parsons, she says she believes taking driver's ed prior to behind the wheel lessons would put her more at ease on the road.
Oh, absolutely. I would have been less scared. I would have had more confidence, especially driving in Joplin and bigger cities. They don't do that now as they did, I guess, in the olden times they did. And they really should, because it would save a lot of people.
With a lack of driver's ed, Box says he uses his lessons to educate new drivers on the rules of the road.
We try to go over all the Missouri law. We also teach defensive driving courses here at the Alliance, so we try to integrate defensive driving into the curriculum during driver's ed.
In Joplin, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News. If this legislation is approved, it would take effect January 1st, 2023. A Miami, Oklahoma high school mascot will no longer hide her face under a bulldog mask. And you could see it featured in major publications. Anna Maria Thomas today signed a contract with a top New York modeling agency, Elite Model. She was discovered at a beauty pageant in Orlando last month.
It's always been a dream of mine, but it's something I've never pursued because it's something that you never think is really going to happen. You know, it's like the 1 in 1 million chance. But I've thought about it since I was a kid. I mean, that's kind of what every girl wants to do.
Elite's models have been featured on the cover of Vogue and Elle magazines. If you're still looking for a gift for a kid in your life, Pitsco in Pittsburgh is trying to help. The company released a holiday gift guide for educators and decided to open it up to families as well. The gifts they're offering are educational and focused on STEM learning.
And coding languages can be scary, but with Bluebot it teaches the foundations of how to think like a coder. And really, it teaches you to think about sequential steps, recognizing patterns, understanding directions, and really getting that foundational knowledge of computational thinking.
Pittsco offered gifts for kids from pre-K through high school. That's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. A pair of Academy Award winners brings the life of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz to the big and small screen. Plus, Brazilian soccer legend Pelé receives chemotherapy for a colon tumor. We'll have the latest on his condition. But first,
we are looking at weather on the 7s once again, and again we're going toward a mild afternoon once we go from mostly cloudy skies this morning to partly sunny skies this afternoon. Highs will top out around 67 with a southwest breeze at 10 to 20, but more cloud cover works in tonight ahead of our next storm system with rain and thunderstorm chances on Friday, not to mention highs near 72. But on the backside of that system, we'll dry out for Saturday and Sunday, but we'll have highs in the 50s for the rest of the weekend. We'll be right back.
Topping World Watch, the first migrants were returned to Mexico Wednesday under the Remain in Mexico policy. That's according to an international organization for migration. According to a source, it was 2 adult male migrants that returned to Mexico on Wednesday. President Biden reinstated the Remain in Mexico policy in El Paso, Texas on Monday, despite disagreeing with it. The administration is adhering to a lower court order requiring the Trump-era policy's revival. It requires non-Mexican migrants to wait in Mexico until their U.S. immigration court date. The policy will expand to other locations along the U.S.-Mexico border in the coming days. Like most countries, the right to vote is granted only to citizens in Germany. That means as many as 10 million non-nationalized immigrant adults living in Germany and paying taxes have no say in the political process. But there are efforts to change that. In September, CNN's Salma Abdeldais met with 3 politicians fighting for greater representation.
Very unique what we have here in Offenbach.
Local politician Hebata Nur Kausar wants to show me the diversity on her streets.
We have a lot of different people from different nations with different skin colors living here.
This is Offenbach, where almost 64% of the population have an immigrant background. But until March of this year, minorities made up just 10% of the local parliament, she says.
So the government looks old, white and male, and that's a huge, huge problem because the government is supposed to reflect the population.
About 1 in 3 people in Offenbach cannot vote because they do not hold German citizenship.
Every decision that is happening is happening over our heads. So over the heads of the people who cannot vote, it's over the heads of the marginalized groups.
More than a quarter of the German population has foreign roots. But the advocacy group Miglum estimates 1 in 7 German residents, as many as 10 million people without citizenship, are disenfranchised. And lack of voting power means lack of representation, says Berlin official Sausan Chablis.
So just imagine the future of Germany will be so diverse, and this has to be seen and mirrored in our reality in the political arena. It's not right now, but it's getting better.
Chablis wants the voting rights afforded to EU citizens in Germany to be extended to other foreign nationals, and the citizenship process simplified.
If I live here for so many years, work and pay taxes in Berlin, then when it comes to elections, I'm not allowed to vote, this makes no sense to me. It has to be changed. It is discriminatory.
Tarek Alawas, a Syrian refugee and activist, ran for political office as soon as his immigration status allowed.
When I looked at the makeup of the German parliament, there was no one who represented refugees like me. So I wanted to be the voice I was missing in politics.
And they know where I'm... Many welcomed Alawas's campaign, but a right-wing minority targeted him with daily hate mail and death threats, he says.
I had to withdraw, but for me, as a refugee in a society where there is systemic racism, I have no option but to continue my political activism. I just have to change my direction.
And without participation and representation, activists say many immigrants are excluded from Germany's democracy.
Apologies from the Prime Minister of Finland after she was seen out clubbing late Saturday night in Helsinki, even though she had been exposed to COVID-19. On Wednesday, PM Sanna Marin said, quote, "I have not acted the best way possible." That COVID exposure happened on Friday during a meeting with the foreign minister who tested positive the following day. Marin says she missed a text Saturday advising her to self-isolate. One government minister at that meeting went to a football match. Another went to a dinner party. All of them have since tested negative. 81-year-old Brazilian soccer legend Pelé has been hospitalized and is undergoing chemotherapy treatment for a tumor in his colon. That's according to a spokesperson at Sao Paulo's Albert Einstein Hospital, who adds Pelé is in stable condition and expected to be released in the next few days. Pelé underwent surgery to remove a tumor from his right colon in September of this year. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. Now let's toss it over to Nick for our Something to Talk About.
And it has to do with musicals this morning, Bronte, especially Hollywood musicals. Certainly making the headlines again after Steven Spielberg is bringing his version of West Side Story to the big screen starting tomorrow. It's a beloved original that won 10 Academy Awards back in '61, and critics are already talking about Oscars for this remake. Other than Oscars, Hollywood has a long and celebrated history of big screen musicals going all the way back to The Jazz Singer in 2007 and all the way up to the award-winning La La Land in 2016. So that's the subject for our morning talker. We want to know, what's your favorite musical? We've got actually quite a list of 6 on the KOAM News Now Insta poll, which you can use your iOS app or Android app to vote, or at KOAMNewsNow.com/vote. We've got West Side Story, Singing in the Rain, My Fair Lady, Sweeney Todd, La La Land, and Chicago. So far, the majority of the votes suggest My Fair Lady. I would argue Grease, Rent, and Phantom of the Opera, but that's why we have it up on Facebook as well. If you see others that you like but not on the list, head over to Facebook and chime in with your favorites. In the meantime, we'll be back after the break.
Hi, guys.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. A Cherokee County judge sentences the suspect in a 2017 murder. Wesley Smith will serve around 16 years in prison on charges of second-degree intentional murder and aggravated battery. He was originally charged with first-degree murder before a November plea deal. In 2017, Smith shot 22-year-old Tyler Nelson multiple times on Nelson's front lawn. A Miami, Oklahoma high school mascot will no longer hide her face under a bulldog mask, and you could see it featured in major publications. Anna Marie Thomas yesterday signed a contract with a top New York modeling agency, Elite Models. She was discovered at a beauty pageant in Orlando last month. If you're still looking for a gift for a kid in your life, Pittsco in Pittsburgh is trying to help. The company released a holiday gift guide for educators and decided to open it up to families as well. The gifts they are offering are educational and focused on STEM learning. Missouri teens could be required to take driver's ed before hitting the road. A Missouri lawmaker has pre-filed legislation that would require anyone 18 and younger trying to get their license to complete a driver's ed course approved by the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission. A driver's ed instructor with the Alliance of Southwest Missouri says he's seen young drivers struggle with their written tests since driver's ed was no longer mandatory. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
And for a good look at our forecast, we're off to a chilly but windy start to our Thursday, but we're going to see more sunshine as the day rolls on. Not to mention a mild afternoon. 62 by noon will push afternoon highs to about 67 degrees. A quick look at tonight has more cloud cover working back in. That will only allow lows to drop back to 49 degrees, but that cloud cover will be ahead of our next storm system that could bring showers and storms into the forecast for tomorrow. But it'll also push highs near 72. Once we get on the backside of that front, though, we're going to dry out for Saturday and Sunday, but we'll have highs dropping back near 50 on Saturday and 57 on Sunday. We'll be right back.
3 Oscar winners and a Tony winner team up to portray the stars of I Love Lucy in a new movie. Oh, and the film's writer and director, he's an Oscar winner too. David Daniel talked with them about the movie.
Let's do our show.
I get paid a fortune to do exactly what I love doing.
They got their money's worth.
Being the Ricardos stars Nicole Kidman as Lucille Ball and Javier Bardem as Desi Arnaz.
She was a genius. She was a comedic genius.
You think we're saying Ricky's stupid?
I think you're saying the audience is. And that's something for which they won't soon forgive you.
You charge for these lessons?
A ton.
I love the energy of his. It's an energy that it's really very unique. It's very commanding, very charming.
Nina Arianda and J.K. Simmons play Vivian Vance and William Frawley, I Love Lucy's Ethel and Fred Mertz.
It is almost like you're watching choreography, and it's almost like you're listening to music. And that's why it's timeless, and you don't even have to understand what they're saying to understand what's happening.
Desi Arnaz was a very, very smart, savvy businessman, as was Lucille Ball.
Lucille Ball's a threat to the American way of life?
Does the FBI have any case against Lucy?
Writer-director Aaron Sorkin's film packs 3 huge events in Lucy and Desi's lives into one tense week.
Lucy being accused of being a communist, Lucy being pregnant at a time when a woman couldn't be pregnant on television, and Desi showing up on the cover of a tabloid.
This is getting out of hand.
Have you been cheating on me?
The story's made up.
If they boo me?
If they boo you, we're done.
As Aaron says, people may not want to see behind the curtain, but behind the curtain's fascinating.
In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Being the Ricardos opens in theaters this Friday and debuts on Amazon Prime Video on December 21st. Well, it's 5:57. We're going to take a look at some of our weather, see if our forecast getting a bit better, Nick.
We'll do that when we come back after the break, Ronte. Or we could take a quick look right now. We're at 67 right now, 72 on your Friday with our next system. Trying to bring in some showers and storms. Then we're going to cool back down for Saturday and Sunday, but we'll also dry out as well. We'll be right back.
Coming up, a Cherokee County judge sentences a Joplin man in a 2017 murder. And Missouri teens may have to pass a driver's ed course before getting their license. Also, a Miami, Oklahoma high school mascot signs a contract with a top New York modeling agency.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6 a.m. I'm Bronte Sorotsky. So, Nick, let's take a look at our weather. It was pretty cold this morning, but what are we going to look like throughout the rest of the day?
Well, the southerly breeze that really picked up throughout the night, Bronte, that's a hint of how much mild that we're going to get, if that made any English proper sense.
It's pretty early.
Yeah, but it is going to really help us out with temperatures once we get the sun to rise. Let's start with a look outside from 7th and Rangeline, and we'll break down what I mean here. It looks quiet, but some cloud cover still around the Joplin area at 6:01 on this Thursday morning, all because, as Doug pointed out the other night, another wave passing through just to the north of the region, but as long as it's so close by, it may have brought a few sprinkles to a couple spots overnight, but mainly it's giving us a mostly cloudy start to the day. And just to double check, the radar network not picking much, if anything at all, in terms of rain. So we're mainly dry to start this morning out, but we actually saw temperatures in the mid to upper 40s before midnight, but now we're seeing temperatures warming even before sunrise. We're in the upper 40s to lower 50s right now. And as long as that breeze stays mainly out of the south and even southwest throughout the day at 10 to 20 miles per hour, that means as the kiddos make their way to the bus stop, they'll start the school day out at 53, but as they come on home, we'll see temperatures topping out around 67 degrees. So we are talking about a day that's going to be much warmer than our average high of 49 degrees. In fact, 62 by noon, highs near 67. We stay mild for one more day as we get the weekend underway, Bronte, but changes, they're coming our way once again. That'll bring us back into reality. So we'll break that down again with the full forecast in a bit.
All right, Nick, thanks.
You're welcome.
A Cherokee County judge sentences the suspect in a 2017 murder. Wesley Smith will serve around 16 years in prison on charges of second-degree intentional murder and aggravated battery. He was originally charged with first-degree murder before a November plea deal. In 2017, Smith shot 22-year-old Tyler Nelson multiple times on Nelson's front lawn. Cherokee County, Kansas has to amend 20,000 property tax forms after discovering that people were taxed more than they were supposed to be. County officials met last night to go over the situation. In last night's meeting, they focused on how the mistake will affect the mill levies for the school district. They've been contacting superintendents to brief them on the issue. The county says they'll be updating the community as they learn more. Yesterday in McCurtain County, Oklahoma, 2 were pronounced dead after a fatal accident. Walter Frey, 79 of Idabel, Oklahoma, was pronounced dead after being transported to McCurtain County Memorial located in Idabel. Melinda Frey, 62, also from Idabel, was transported by Air-Evac to Medical City Plano in Plano, Texas, where she was later pronounced dead. The other driver, Gary Dawson, 69, had no injuries whatsoever. A state court judge in Oklahoma has granted a temporary stay of execution for a death row inmate convicted of killing a security guard during a 2004 bank robbery in Tulsa. Pittsburgh County Associate District Judge Tim Mills issued the stay so that a competency hearing can be held for 6-year-old Wade Lay. After a hearing before Mills last week, the judge determined there was a good reason to believe Lay is not competent to be executed. Lay's attorney, Sarah Jernigan, has said Lay has a decades-long history of severe mental illness, including schizophrenia and delusions. Some Miami, Oklahoma schools went into lockdown yesterday. Authorities tell us someone near one of the schools was shooting a gun. No one was hurt, and the suspect is in custody. Wilson, Nichols, and Miami Academy all went under shelter-in-place orders. The Missouri State Highway Patrol's Division of Drug and Crime is investigating an officer-involved shooting. It occurred on December 8th in Hickory County, Missouri. On Wednesday at approximately 9 a.m., Hickory County Sheriff's Office deputies responded to the report of a domestic disturbance in Hermitage, Missouri. A preliminary investigation revealed that while deputies were investigating the disturbance, a female armed with a knife attacked the resident of the property. A deputy fired his weapon, which struck the 42-year-old, in which she was fatally injured and was pronounced dead at the scene. COVID-19 cases are rising again across Missouri. Data pointed on the state's COVID-19 dashboard showed 1,637 people hospitalized with the virus. By comparison, 951 were hospitalized a month ago. The number of intensive care unit patients has risen to 338, up from 228 on November 5th. Inpatient bed capacity is at 15% in the St. Louis region, 18% in Kansas City, and just 12% in northwestern Missouri. Missouri teens could be required to take driver's ed before hitting the road. A Missouri lawmaker has pre-filed legislation that would require anyone 18 and younger trying to get their license to complete a driver's ed course approved by the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission. A driver's ed instructor with the Alliance of Southwest Missouri says he's seen young drivers struggle with their written tests since driver's ed was no longer mandatory.
There's a lot of online courses to help with the written exam. I see a lot of students that take multiple attempts to have the written exam. There's many online courses out there that assist with this behind the wheel.
Currently, it is only recommended that new drivers looking to obtain a license complete a driver's ed program. A Miami, Oklahoma high school mascot will no longer hide her face under a bulldog mask. And you could see it featured in major publications. Anna Maria Thomas on Wednesday signed a contract with top New York modeling agency Elite Model. She was discovered at a beauty pageant in Orlando last month.
It's always been a dream of mine, but it's something I've never pursued because it's something that you never think is really going to happen. You know, it's like the 1 in 1 million chance. But I've thought about it since I was a kid. I mean, that's kind of what every girl wants to do.
Elite's models have been featured on the cover of Vogue and Elle magazines. Well, it's 6:07.
That means another look at our forecast, Bronte, especially another look at the 7-day for the first time this hour. 67 degrees this afternoon. It's going to be quite a mild day once we get some of the cloud cover out of here, especially for the afternoon. 72 for Friday, mild again, but We have our next storm system on the way too. Not only will that bring some possible showers and storms on Friday, behind it, it's going to dry out, but we're going to really chill back down once again. 50 on Saturday and 57 on Sunday.
All right, thanks, Nick.
All right.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, Jesse Smollett's fate is left up to the jury. We'll have what closing arguments were from both the prosecutor and the defense.
Plus, sunshine is healthy for you. It provides necessary health benefits, but a new study also finds it could prevent a certain disease. We'll find out which one.
And job openings are still at an all-time high thanks to the pandemic, and employees walking away from their jobs find out why. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. In Consumer Watch this morning, Instagram's CEO was called to Capitol Hill today to testify before a Senate panel investigating the platform's potentially negative impacts on teen users. The CEO says Instagram is already creating age-appropriate experiences for young users and supporting teens who may be struggling, but some lawmakers say those measures fall short. The pandemic has put the job market on a roller coaster. After massive layoffs in 2020, businesses are searching for millions of employees, but many workers are deciding to walk away from their jobs. Bradley Blackburn reports.
Will Ezell and his fiancée are spending time in Thailand. But this is not your typical trip.
We said, let's just live there for a while. So instead of a 2-week vacation, we're on, a 2-year vacation.
Ezell saved his money and then quit his job to make the move happen.
I gave him a nice long notice and I was like, look, I got to go do this. I got to learn a little bit about myself and, a little bit about my heritage. And they were super supportive.
The Labor Department says more than 4 million people quit their jobs in October.
I think this great resignation is something that's really been interesting to observe.
CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger says the resignations are giving job seekers more opportunities. There were 11 million job openings in October, up 400,000 from September.
I think that many people have been very frustrated with their old jobs for a long time, but didn't think they had alternatives. Well, now they have alternatives and they're taking advantage of those alternatives.
The current climate has corporations trying to attract workers with higher wages and incentives, but many small businesses can't compete. The restaurant industry is one of the hardest hit. Janie Desmond Eisen owns Steamer's Cafe in Sacramento, California, and needs more workers.
I've never seen a group of potential employees schedule interviews, either not show up and never tell you, or show up and then you hire them and you never hear from them again.
She's now closing her shop 2 hours early every day because there's not enough staff to stay open. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
Good news for drivers, prices at the pump are starting to come down. The U.S. Energy Information Administration said in November the national average for a gallon of regular gasoline was $3.39. That's the highest since 2014, but by January it's expected to drop to about $3 and continue falling. For 2022, the average is expected to be $2.88. This new forecast is based on global oil production outpacing demand next year. That's it for Consumer Watch. We'll be right back.
We are coming close to 6:17. Time for weather on the 7s once again. And like I always like to do, we'll start with the big picture at the jet stream level. Like Doug pointed out the other night, we have our next system actually passing through now. That is why we have seen quite a bit of cloud cover, just certainly picking up last night and to start this morning out. But at the surface, we got another quick warm front passing through. That's helping to keep that southerly wind in action. And it's certainly been in action with the south wind at 10 to 20 throughout the overnight hours so far. And even at a couple of spots underneath this mostly cloudy sky, maybe a couple of sprinkles. But in general, we're all dry to start this morning out, and we're certainly looking dry from 7th and range line. But we're at 52 in Joplin with a south wind at 21, but gusts pushing near 33. This breeze is going to stay up there throughout the day, but it is really going to help things out with temperatures. Right now, though, we're seeing a couple upper 40s still, like Parsons and Independence at 49, 48 in Iowa. Everyone else is sitting in the lower 50s, all because, again, that southerly breeze cranked back into gear last night and certainly this morning, sustained at 10 to 20, gusts pushing near 30, if not over 30 at times. So that means forget about our average high of 49. We're going well above that today. 62 by noon. We'll push highs to 67, at least in the Joplin area alone. But that trend continues across the entire area. We'll be in the lower 60s around lunchtime and then pushing highs near 67 degrees in general for the afternoon. We keep things quiet for this evening, but as we go into Friday morning, the cloud cover will pick back up ahead of our next cold front to the northwest. Before it works on through on Friday, ahead of it, we'll top out in the lower 70s for Friday afternoon. And even ahead of the front, we'll watch for scattered showers and thunderstorms, especially during the afternoon. Once we get behind that front, we are dry for the rest of the weekend, but we are eager to cool back down once again. 50 on Saturday, 57 on Sunday. We turn mild again for early next week, but sticking with Doug's pattern, we'll start to see some more storm systems head our way. In the meantime, a jury begins deliberations in the trial of Jussie Smollett following closing arguments yesterday in Chicago. We have the latest now from Fox News.
Jussie Smollett has only one hope. He's looking for one juror to nullify the verdict.
The trial portion of Jussie Smollett wrapping up today as both sides present their closing arguments. Special prosecutor Dan Webb saying Smollett lacks any credibility, accusing the former Empire actor of lying to jurors, saying surveillance video from before the alleged attack contradicts Smollett's own testimony. Smollett stands accused of staging a hate crime on himself back in January 2019, telling police someone put a noose around his neck and yelled racist and homophobic slurs against him.
You want to take it off or anything? Yeah, I do. I just want to go see it.
Smollett taking the stand in his own defense this week, repeatedly maintaining that he is innocent and a victim. Meanwhile, the Osundaro brothers testifying that it was Smollett who paid them $3,500 to carry out the attack. Smollett calling them liars, and his lawyer saying in his closing statement that prosecution's case is built like a house of cards.
He's maintained throughout that he had nothing to do with it, and that didn't change.
Smollett is charged with 6 felony counts of disorderly conduct for lying to police. Prosecutors say his lies cost the Chicago Police Department an enormous amount of time and resources. Smollett's family and friends by his side every day in court, speaking out in his defense.
Jussie is the victim of a ruthless character assassination. This has been a devastating ordeal for all of us.
If convicted, Smollett faces up to 3 years in prison, but probation is also a possibility. In Chicago, Matt Finn, Fox News.
We appreciate Matt Finn from Fox News with that report, like he said. In the meantime, we'll take a quick break and we'll have Bronte back with Health Watch on the other side.
Topping Health Watch this morning in South Africa, where Omicron was first discovered last month, cases have jumped from about 200 per day to about 20,000 and are more than doubling it daily. Deborah Pata reports from Johannesburg.
Firmly in the grip of a COVID storm driven by Omicron, South Africa's fourth wave looks nothing like previous ones.
6 months ago, this COVID ward was overflowing with patients. Now it's completely different. It's half empty despite soaring infections across the country.
This was the same hospital during the Delta-fueled third wave, overwhelmed, desperately short of oxygen, and running out of ICU beds. But this time round, says COVID doctor Farid Abdullah, patients so far have had mild symptoms with very few requiring oxygen.
We've never seen that before. Normally in a COVID ward, you would have 80 to 90, I would even go as far as saying 95% of patients would be on some form of supplemental oxygenation.
South African scientists have released the first results on Omicron's potency, finding it significantly reduces vaccine protection, but not completely. Virologist Alex Segal believes antibodies from either vaccines or previous infections will stop the disease from becoming more severe.
I'm hopeful that because of all this previous immunity, that while a lot of people will be infected, most of the disease is going to be quite mild.
Although vaccine rates remain low in South Africa, just over 25%, so many people have been previously infected with COVID, it's providing high levels of natural immunity.
But South Africa has stepped up its inoculation campaign. Health regulators have approved booster shots for everyone over 18, and the government is considering making vaccines mandatory. Sunshine may help protect kids and young adults from multiple sclerosis. A new international study found participants who spent an average of 30 minutes to 1 hour outdoors daily had a 52% lower risk of developing MS. Researchers say sunshine can stimulate immune cells that ward off some diseases. Blood from marathon runners may one day be used to help those who exercise less. In tests with mice, researchers found blood from extremely active mice improved cognitive performance in sedentary mice of the same age. The discovery could help develop treatments for people with neurodegenerative disease. Researchers in Australia have developed a real-time sensor that can monitor exposure to nicotine. They say the device can help e-cigarette users who want some nicotine but not too much. It can also be a tool for people concerned about exposure to secondhand smoke. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
And with us coming close to 627 once again, let's get another check of our forecast. On a normal day like this, we should be starting around 30 and topping out around 49 degrees, but we're already in the upper 40s to lower 50s this morning. And with that southwest wind at 10 to 20 lined up for the afternoon along with some more sunshine, we're going to push afternoon highs near 67 degrees this afternoon. So all across the region, we are going to see the returning sun and that strong southwest breeze warm us into the upper 60s. Then as we head toward tonight into Friday morning, cloud cover will pick back up, and so will some scattered showers and thunderstorms. Before any of that can get going, though, we'll have highs topping out in the lower 70s. We'll break down the full forecast once again when we come back for another half hour of news. Stick with us.
Anyone with a significant...
Coming up, a Cherokee County judge sentences a Joplin man in a 2017 murder. And Missouri teens may have to pass a driver's ed course before getting their license. Also, a Miami, Oklahoma high school mascot signs a contract with a top New York modeling agency.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6:30. I'm Bronte Sorotsky. So I'm here with Nick Kelly, and Nick, it is, I mean, we've been here a few hours now. Is the weather getting any better? Because I was freezing this morning trying to get to my car to get to the station.
Yeah, the south wind out there, Bronte, is certainly helping things out. We actually started out around midnight with most of us in the upper 40s, but that south wind that kicked into gear, it's actually warming us up throughout the morning so far, and it's going to continue to do just that as we proceed through the rest of the day ahead of us. Right now, though, morning traffic's beginning to pick up from 7th and Rangeline while the skies above stay primarily quiet. But we saw a lot of cloud cover last night and early this morning worked on through, all because of a storm system that was sitting over Utah the other day. Now it's passing to the north across parts of Nebraska and Iowa. And at times, there might have been enough moisture to drop a couple sprinkles in a few spots. But in general, we're all off to mainly a dry start this morning, and just to make doubly sure, nothing really popping up on the radar network. So again, we're mainly dry to start the morning out. Temperatures, though, not too terrible. Upper 40s and more lower 50s popping up on the board. And as long as that southwest breeze stays in place, that means we'll see the temperatures around 53 as the kiddos make their way to school. But as they return home, look at how mild it gets this afternoon. Once we get past our chilly start this morning, we'll go to 62 by noon, and as the kiddos head home and as we begin to make our way back home during the evening rush, we're going to have high temperatures around 67 degrees. These are numbers that are hard to come by for December, Bronte, but we'll have another mild day for tomorrow before we see a return to the December norm come back in our way. We'll break that down with the full forecast in a bit.
All right, Nick, thank you.
You're welcome.
A Cherokee County judge sentences the suspect in a 2017 murder. Wesley Smith will serve around 16 years in prison on charges of second-degree intentional murder and aggravated battery. He was originally charged with first-degree murder before a November plea deal. In 2017, Smith shot 22-year-old Tyler Nelson multiple times on Nelson's front lawn. Yesterday in McCurtain County, Oklahoma, 2 were pronounced dead after a fatal accident. Walter Frey, 79, of Idabel, Oklahoma, was pronounced dead after being transported to McCurtain County Memorial, located in Idabel. Melinda Frey, 62, also from Idabel, was transported by air evac to Medical City Plano in Plano, Texas, where she was later pronounced dead. The other driver, Gary Dawson, 69, had no injuries whatsoever. Some Miami, Oklahoma schools went into lockdown yesterday. Authorities tell us someone near one of the schools was shooting a gun. No one was hurt and the suspect is in custody. Wilson, Nichols, and Miami Academy all went under shelter-in-place orders. A Miami, Oklahoma high school mascot will no longer hide her face under a bulldog mask, and you could see it featured in major publications. Anna Maria Thomas today signed a contract with a top New York modeling agency, Elite Model. She was discovered at a beauty pageant in Orlando last month.
It's always been a dream of mine, but it's something I've never pursued because it's something that you never think is really going to happen. You know, it's like the 1 in 1,000,000 chance. But I've thought about it since I was a kid. I mean, that's kind of what every girl wants to do.
Elite's models have been featured on the cover of Vogue and Elle magazines. Well, if you're still looking for a gift for a kid in your life, Pittsco in Pittsburgh is trying to help. The company released a holiday gift guide for educators and decided to open it up to families as well. The gifts they were offering are educational and focused on STEM learning.
And coding languages can be scary, but with Bluebot it teaches the foundations of how to think like a coder. And really, it teaches you to think about sequential steps, recognizing patterns, understanding directions, and really getting that foundational knowledge of computational thinking.
Pittsco offers gifts for kids from pre-K through high school. Young Missouri drivers could soon be required to take driver's ed thanks to some pre-filed legislation. The bill says that anyone 18 and younger trying to get their driver's license would need to complete a driver's ed course approved by the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission. KOAM spoke with a Joplin driving instructor and student to see what the bill could mean for young Missouri drivers.
Okay, you are good, you ready? Let's go ahead and go.
Mark Box has been a driver's ed instructor with the Alliance of Southwest Missouri for the last 5 years. And in that time, he's seen some changes in what's required when it comes to obtaining a driver's license.
You have to take your written permit test before you're allowed to drive with a licensed adult of a certain age. And after you're 16 years of age, then you're allowed to take the behind the wheel driver's test. But other than that, there is no mandated training, behind the wheel training in the state of Missouri. It used to be, but it has now been taken out of Missouri's curriculum.
A Missouri lawmaker has pre-filed a bill that would require anyone 18 and younger to take a driver's ed course before obtaining their license.
Kids are not currently required to take driver's ed.
In Box's time as a driving instructor, he says he's seen a significant decrease in teens' driving skills.
Just the skill level I've seen in the teenagers from the time it was mandatory to the time it was not any longer has dramatically decreased.
For new drivers like Jeanette Parsons, she says she believes taking driver's ed prior to behind the wheel lessons would put her more at ease on the road.
Oh, absolutely. I would have been less scared. I would have had more confidence, especially driving in Joplin and bigger cities. They don't do that now as they did, I guess, in the olden times they did. And they really should, because it would save a lot of people.
With a lack of driver's ed, Box says he uses his lessons to educate new drivers on the rules of the road.
We try to go over all the Missouri law. We also teach defensive driving courses here at the Alliance. So we try to integrate defensive driving into the curriculum during driver's ed.
In Joplin, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News. If this legislation is approved, it would take effect January 1st, 2023. That's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. The Kim Potter trial continues today. We'll have the latest updates. Plus, from My Fair Lady to La La Land, Hollywood has a history of musicals. What's your favorite Hollywood musical? We let you weigh in, but first,
we are looking at another check of our forecast, Bronte. We are looking at temperatures once we get more sunshine back into play, near 62 this afternoon. That will actually have highs topping out around 67 degrees, but cloud cover will be back on the upswing as we head into the overnight, with overnight lows only dropping back to 49. But the quick look at the extended forecast has another system on Friday with some scattered showers and storms to go along with it, not to mention highs around 72. But once we get behind that system, we're dry for the rest of the weekend, but 50s will return for afternoon highs. We'll be right back.
Topping Nation Watch this morning, Bob Dole will be honored Friday in a private memorial service with President Joe Biden in attendance and public service at the World War II Memorial in Washington. Those events will come before the casket of the former presidential candidate and decorated soldier travels to Kansas for events in his hometown and the state capitol. The Dole Institute of Politics says President Biden will join former presidents, congressional leaders, friends, and the Dole family for the private service. A public memorial service is set for Saturday morning in Dole's hometown of Russell, Kansas. Dole's casket will lie in state Thursday at the U.S. Capitol. The right to get an abortion could be severely restricted across more than 24 states, but California officials are trying to make the Golden State a sanctuary for women in places where the procedure could be outlawed. Fox News correspondent Kevin Cork reports.
The fate of abortion rights in America is facing an uncertain future as the Supreme Court mulls over whether to uphold a Mississippi law banning all abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy, while also deciding if other states can follow suit with similar bans. The High Court's decision isn't expected until June, but abortion rights advocates in California aren't wasting time preparing for the worst as they look to turn the Golden State into a safe haven for women across the country needing an abortion. At least 25 states are expected to outlaw most abortions if the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade, and reproductive health experts say women in those areas will turn to clinics in California for help.
California could see a 3,000% increase in patients coming to us.
But traveling across state lines for an abortion isn't exactly cheap, and advocates say those with limited means need assistance. That's why the California Future of Abortion Council is asking local leaders to fund their journeys.
We certainly envision an influx of patients and unique challenges for people that have to come from out of state. So things like practical support, travel, lodging, childcare.
Besides covering the cost of travel and hotel stays, advocates are also asking the government to pay for the abortion procedures. That is, if the out-of-state person would have qualified for a free one if they were a California resident. I'm Kevin Cork, Fox News.
Broadway paused Wednesday evening to remember legendary composer and lyricist Stephen Sondheim, who died last month at the age of 91. The theater community gathered on 45th Street at 6:30 p.m. to dim the lights on Broadway marquees. Sondheim's long list of hit musicals includes Gypsy, West Side Story, Sweeney Todd, and Sunday in the Park with George. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert also dimmed the marquee at the Ed Sullivan Theater to pay tribute to Sondheim. Opening statements followed by testimony yesterday in the trial of Kim Potter. The white Minnesota police officer says she mistakenly drew a gun instead of a taser when she shot and killed 20-year-old Dante Wright. Laura Podesta has the latest.
In the same courtroom where former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was found guilty of murdering George Floyd, another white officer, Kim Potter, sits trial connected to the death of a black man named Dante Wright. In April, police pulled over 20-year-old Wright for expired license plate tags and an air freshener hanging from his rearview mirror, which is illegal in Minnesota. They then discovered he had an outstanding warrant. Video from Potter's body cam shows police attempting to arrest Wright before he gets back in his car. Potter then pulls out her pistol while repeatedly shouting "Taser." She then shoots Wright in the chest.
We trust them to know wrong from right and left from right.
The defense claimed in opening statements Potter mistakenly grabbed the wrong weapon while trying to protect another officer who would have gotten hurt had Wright driven away.
This was an accident. She's a human being, but she had to do what she had to do to prevent a death to a fellow officer, too.
Wright's mother spoke to the court about the pain that accident has created.
I wanted to go comfort my baby. I wanted to hold him.
Potter's expected to testify on her own behalf next week. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
Potter is no longer on the Brooklyn Center police force. The 26-year-old veteran resigned shortly after the shooting. That's a look at today's top national stories. Now let's check back with Nick for our Something to Talk About.
Yeah, it's with a switch of gears, Bronte. Let's go back to Stephen Sondheim in a way, because it's a perfect segue to West Side Story. That's getting a revival by Steven Spielberg. He's bringing his version of the classic musical West Side Story to the big screen starting tomorrow. It's a beloved original that won 10 Academy Awards back in '61, and critics are already talking about potential Oscars for this remake. Now, we know Hollywood has a long celebrated history of big screen musicals, going all the way back to The Jazz Singer in 27, and even all the way up to La La Land, another award-winning musical in 2016. So that's our Something to Talk About this morning. We want to hear from you. What's your favorite Hollywood musical? We got a good selection that you see down below, and if I can refresh on my end how the results look so far, West Side Story has taken the lead again at 34%, although personally I'm glad to see that Chicago's getting at least a little bit of love, even though the vote stands at 10%. But we still want to hear from you. Vote at KOAMNewsNow.com/vote, or you can vote using the KOAM News Now app for iOS and Android. And we also have it on Facebook as well. You can chime in with your own there. Personally, I would like to see if any of you think Rent, Phantom of the Opera, or Grease are some of your favorites, or certainly some of mine. In the meantime, though, we'll take a break. Then we'll be back with our 4-state hero, birthdays, and another check of weather when we come back.
We take this time to honor today's 4-state hero. From Hays, Kansas, we salute Brian Nichols, who served in the U.S. Army from 2004 to 2011, spending wartime in Afghanistan, Bosnia, and Germany. Nichols earned several awards for his bravery, including the Purple Heart, the Bronze Star, and the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal. We thank you, Brian Nichols, our 4-state hero.
Now we're switching gears and let's get to our birthday list for this Thursday. Hazley Joe Olson, happy second birthday to you, and certainly with love from Mom and Dad.
And then Harley Murphy, you are 4 from Fort Scott. Look at that.
Certainly looking so dashing with that bow and that pretty dress. Happy birthday, Harley.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, we continue on to Girard, Kansas. Annie Clark, turning 5 years old today. Happy birthday, Annie.
Next, we go to Riverton for Brooklyn Zorn's 6th birthday. Look at that Wonder Woman outfit. I love it. I love it.
A lot of girl power in that picture, I'll tell you what.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
In the meantime, over to Pittsburgh. It is 7 strong this year for Bryce Ramsey. Happy birthday to you, Bryce.
Going over, staying in Pittsburgh to Cruz Harrell, turning 10. Oh, my gosh. And also an athlete. Love to see it. Happy birthday.
Yeah, looks like he'll stick with football for a while. Certainly a good sport.
Definitely.
We continue on to St. Paul. Amelia Savard. Hope I got your last name right, Amelia. But nonetheless, happy 10th birthday to you on this special day.
Going to Bronstone, 13 years old yesterday. Love the hat. I love the energy in this photo. Happy belated birthday, Braun.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was taken at karaoke or maybe a rodeo, but certainly pulling off the look is certainly a lot better than I could. Continuing on, we have a pair of twins celebrating a birthday. First, on the left, we have Layla Bradfield turning 19. And who's that person on the right, Bronte?
That is Hannah Bradfield, and they are getting some love from Mom, Dad, and Olivia.
They certainly are. We continue on. Happy 26th to Winter Moore out of Pittsburgh, Kansas. And a special note with love from the families in Chanute and Ottawa. Who's next, Bronte?
Going on from Sheldon, Missouri, DJ Beeson is turning 29, and his mom wanted to make sure that we know it's his 29th birthday. Happy
Absolutely.
birthday, DJ.
Always with great love from Mom. Moving on, Pittsburgh, Kansas, we have Angela Carlinger. Hope we got the last name right, Angela, but nonetheless, happy 39th birthday to you on this Thursday.
Going to Carthage, Shirley Honeshell is 61 years old. Happy birthday, Shirley.
Couldn't tell by that picture, that's for sure. Happy birthday to you, Miss Shirley. We continue on to Drew Cook out of Frontenac, turning 26. He's actually the husband of a Carinza Holler. Happy birthday to you, Drew. All right, Bronte, what's next on the list?
Next, we have Cindy Johnson from Chetopa We also have Maggie Morris from Cherryville, Marilyn Westervelt from Columbus, and Holly McReynolds, Fort Scott, 39. And last but not least, his birthday was yesterday, but Joe Shipley, 68, turned 68 yesterday from Chanute.
All right, that is it for our birthday list. If you want us to give you a birthday or anniversary shout out, easy to do. Just submit your info to us. Birthdays at KOAMTV.com or birthdays at KOAMNewsNow.com. But that's not all, is it, Bronte?
Nope, you can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club by going to our website and signing up. You can get special deals from local businesses. So go to KOAMNewsNow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
All right, that is it for birthdays. Another check of the forecast before we head to another commercial break. First, the upper levels, as Doug pointed out the other night, another system coming out of the Rockies, passing to our north this morning. This was the culprit that brought in a lot of cloud cover to start the morning out, maybe a couple of sprinkles at the surface. We've got another brief warm front passing through. That's just making sure we keep that good southerly wind going as we get this morning started. In general, though, aside from maybe a couple of random sprinkles, there wasn't a lot of moisture coming out of the clouds as they passed on through this morning. But look at that, 6:51, starting to see the skies brighten up as the sun starts to rise. 52 in Joplin, the south wind at 21, gusting near 33. Everyone's starting out in the upper 40s to lower 50s this morning, but forget about our average high of 49 degrees on a day like today. We'll be quickly going to 62 by noon and seeing afternoon highs around 67 in Joplin, but everyone's going to fare the same way. Once we see partly to mostly sunny skies return this afternoon, we'll be in lower 60s by noon, and then pushing into the upper 60s as we go into the afternoon in general. Then, ahead of our next storm system on Friday, we'll see the cloud cover build back in through the overnight and the Friday morning, and then we'll see potential scattered thunderstorms return for Friday afternoon. We'll see how temperatures look ahead of this cold front before we start to cool things down with our final look at the 7-day when we come back.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. A Cherokee County judge sentenced the suspect in a 2017 murder. Wesley Smith will serve around 16 years in prison on charges of second-degree intentional murder and aggravated battery. He was originally charged with first-degree murder before a November plea deal. In 2017, Smith shot 22-year-old Tyler Nelson multiple times on Nelson's front lawn. A Miami, Oklahoma high school mascot will no longer hide her face under a bulldog mask, and you could see it featured in major publications. Anna Marie Thomas yesterday signed a contract with a top New York modeling agency, Elite Model. She was discovered at a beauty pageant in Orlando last month. And if you're still looking for a gift for a kid in your life, Pitsco in Pittsburgh is trying to help. The company released a holiday gift guide for educators and decided to open it up to families as well. The gifts they're offering are educational and focused on STEM learning. Missouri teens could be required to take driver's ed before hitting the road. A Missouri lawmaker has pre-filed legislation that would require anyone 18 and younger trying to get their license to complete a driver's ed course approved by the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission. A driver's ed instructor with the Alliance of Southwest Missouri says he's seen young drivers struggle with a written test since driver's ed was no longer mandatory. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
And as I promised Bronte, a look at the 7-day before we start to wrap things up. Again, 67 degrees, a mild afternoon lined up with more sunshine lining up for the afternoon as well, with that southwest breeze at 10 to 20. Friday, ahead of our next cold front, we'll have highs pushing to 72, but we'll also see some scattered showers and storms develop during the afternoon and possibly into the evening as well. Behind the front, we dry out for Saturday and Sunday, but that's when we'll send highs back into the 50s, so we have to cool down for the weekend ahead overall, Bronte. But once we get past the storm chances on Friday, the weekend overall looking pretty good. All
right. Coming up today at noon, we're making lemon roseberry roasted Cornish Hanes.
That doesn't sound so bad. We'll see what else is coming up on noon later today as well. But for now, the morning news will continue with CBS Mornings up next. But we're not done just yet, are we, Bronte?
Nope. Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues.
Yeah, this morning we're going to discuss the color of the year. I think we'll talk about some of the top Google searches as well.
Plus, a 45-year-old cold case gets a lead.
And we'll also touch base on our morning talker, which has to do with some of the favorite Hollywood musicals, especially since West Side Story is getting a Steven Spielberg version ready to hit the big screens tomorrow. So we got a lot to cover on the Fox coming up. In the meantime, that'll wrap things up for now on the KOAM side, folks. We hope you have a great Thursday. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning.
And we'll see you today at noon after the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14.